As part of this project, we had to assess the welfare of an individual monkey. However, we couldn't do a brief analysis of a single monkey in particular, as all the monkeys are very similar and it's impossible to distinguish one from another. Moreover, touching the animals is not allowed, and in this case, it was not possible to put something on them so we could identify them, for example, a ribbon or coloring their fur. In another kind of animal, tortoise for example, we would mark the shell. Goeldii's monkeys, also known as Callimico goeldii, are small black primates with a head and body length around 22 centimeters. Their tail length is between 27 to 33 centimeters. They are endothermic and omnivorous animals.
Goeldii monkeys can be found in the upper Amazon rainforest of southern Colombia, eastern Ecuador, eastern Peru, western Brazil, and northern Bolivia.
In captivity, Goeldii monkeys weigh around 454 grams to 590 grams, whereas in their natural habitat their weight can be between 266 grams and 355 grams. In captivity, the females are slightly smaller than the males.
At Moulton College, there is a family of Goeldii's monkeys, the mother, the father, and their two offspring, a female and a male. The two offspring were born in Edinburgh Zoo. We know that in captivity they can live up to 20 years.
These monkeys are located on primary forests with dense understory, bamboo forests and second growth woods. They usually stay no more than 5 meters from the floor, and they only go further up to grab fruit. Goeldii monkeys sleep in hollow trees in groups of 6 to 8. They can have resting periods between 30 to 90 minutes. The groups of different families are separated by some kilometers, depending on the availability of the food.
Different to other species, Goeldii females can just give birth to one baby at a time. The cycle of pregnancy is just 155 days, so they can breed more than once a year. Another difference is that they have 3 sets of molars instead of 2.
Following the International Union of Conservation of Nature Red List of Threatened Species, the Goeldii's monkeys is a vulnerable species with a trend to decrease. The main reason for this decrease is the loss of habitat due to logging and agriculture, but they are also affected by hunting and trapping. Scientists expect the population of monkeys will drop more than 30% over the next 3 generations.
The 5 needs outline the criteria that must be met in order to meet the welfare needs of animals. The first one is ensuring animals have somewhere suitable to live. This includes their environment and safety. The Goeldii monkey's natural habitat is in hotter, humid areas such as the Amazon rainforest, and their enclosure imitates the environment of a forest to a certain extent. There are many branches, logs, and horizontal surfaces to recreate their natural habitat. Accompanied with these wooden structures, the enclosure has mud, bark, and leaves on the floor. Although there is space for the monkeys to move about freely, the enclosure does not allow them to run and jump as they would in their natural habitat. There is an outside enclosure which is slightly bigger than the inside. Over the summer months, the monkeys have access to it 24 hours a day. However, now it's starting to get colder, the monkeys are shut in during the night, but always have access to it during the day from 8:30 a.m. till 5 p.m.
The lights are turned on and off when the technicians come in and leave for the day. The UV light turns on and off at the same time as the overhead lights, but the infrared lights are always on to provide heat. There have been recent studies commencing on the effects of UV lighting has on Goeldii monkeys, suggesting that UV lighting may not be healthy for them. We compared the average climate of the Amazon rainforest to the monkey enclosure. The humidity in their enclosure was similar and the temperature was around 22 degrees. Moreover, the main room the monkeys share with the other species, mongoose or iguana, also has the temperature and humidity controlled. In this case, the temperature of the main room was 19.5 degrees and 60% humidity. This enclosure is suitable for the Goeldii monkeys as it replicates the climate in their natural habitat. To maintain the warmth, there is a heater in their enclosure. Also, the wood chosen for the outside of the enclosure is a good material for keeping humidity in. There is a wire mesh on the inside so the monkeys are able to hold on to it.
We evaluated the quality of ventilation and if it met the welfare standards and needs. The top of the enclosure is open mesh. A plastic sheet above the roof had been considered, but it was decided the sheet would decrease airflow. When it is really warm in summer, an extra window is opened in the room to increase airflow.
Monkeys are small omnivorous mammals and are constantly foraging for food. Their diet is based on fruit, insects, bird eggs, and small vertebrates like frogs or lizards. In the dry season, between March and July, When there is plenty of fungi and the fruit is scarce, more than half of their diet is based on fungi. Their favorite are the yellow fungus and the bamboo fungus. At Molton College, they have multiple feeding times to replicate their natural habitat. Moreover, the food is left overnight to give the monkeys the chance to eat everything on their own pace. Also, the technicians saw a decrease in their weight during the last few months and they decided to overfeed them to make sure that they are in their optimal weight. At college, the diet is constant, so we cannot observe any changes in their behavior. They have a diet based mainly on vegetables and fruits, but they also have pellets, plants, mealworms, and tamarind cake. When presenting with different mushrooms, these monkeys were not interested in eating them, suggesting they prefer the fruit and vegetables provided for them throughout the year.
Animals must exhibit natural behaviour when in an enclosure. The 4 Goeldii monkeys' behaviour was compared to natural behaviour to see if there are any similarities. Goeldii monkeys are capable of jumping up to 4 metres from one branch to another. However, there is no space in the enclosure for them to do so. These 4 monkeys can be lively, but their ability to jump and run is prohibited due to the lack of space. As a result, the monkeys don't exhibit natural behaviour fully.
In their natural habitat, Goeldii monkeys tend to sleep in hollow trees in groups. A wooden box was made on the side of the enclosure to replicate a hollow tree. There is also an artificial tree in the corner of the enclosure with a hole in the middle to encourage the monkeys to sleep in. The monkeys do not use either of these structures and tend to sleep on horizontal surfaces such as their bridge in the back of their enclosure. This is not natural behaviour and could suggest their behaviour has changed due to being in captivity. The 2 offspring were born in Edinburgh Zoo, so have never lived in different conditions. The origin of the parents is unknown, however it is likely they were also born in another zoo, which explains their unnatural sleeping behaviour. A wooden box and an artificial tree is not the same as a hollow natural tree, and this could also be a reason to why these monkeys don't use them.
Due to the fact that these 4 monkeys live in captivity, their behavior may differ slightly to Goeldii monkeys living in their natural habitat. Whenever someone enters the enclosure, the Goeldii monkeys are intrigued and approach the glass to see. The noise of people talking, combined with everyone coming and going, seems to agitate the monkeys. This is not a healthy emotion for the monkeys to experience every day. The 4 Goeldii monkeys in the enclosure communicate with one another all the time, although there are some communication methods that can be identified, such as smell. Other forms such as behavior towards one another and vocalization can be observed and assessed. This links with the next section of the 5 needs, the need to be housed with, apart from others.
The 5 needs highlights the importance of animals needing to be housed with or without other animals. Goeldii monkeys should be living in the enclosure with other monkeys to allow social interaction between one another, such as grooming and mating. Without this, they would become socially isolated, lacking the skills they need for an independent survival. There are 4 monkeys which consist of 2 males and 2 females. Typically there are 6 to 8 monkeys in a family, however the monkeys aren't breeding as both the father and son have been castrated. The young reach sexual maturity between 18 months and 2 years, and the females usually mature first. However, when pregnant, mothers can only have 1 baby at a time. Mothers would have multiple pregnancies a year, as gestation averages around 155 days. Martin recognises that small-bodied tamarins, marmosets and Goeldii monkey tend to have a lengthy gestation period for their small body size.
Downey found Goeldii monkeys communicate with one another through many different methods, such as grooming themselves and marking their territory. These are examples of scent communication. This behaviour includes scent licking, urination marking, and rubbing body parts to stimulate glands. They have claws on all digits of feet except the large toe, called the toilet claw. This is used for grooming themselves and the other monkeys. They communicate vocally and their cries can be heard over 100 metres away. Goeldii monkeys tend to show their teeth when they are extremely angry.
Dia states that the monkeys tend to make themselves look bigger and jump around, which is a territorial display. Grooming can be social or a way to display a sexual interest towards one another. These monkeys do groom one another, however, they do not display strong mating behavior. This may be due to the fact that the males in the family have been castrated. Bayray Rouveau observed that the monkeys scent mark their tails by retracting the tail between the hind limbs and brushing it against the genitals and the breastbone scent gland.
To prevent the monkeys from pain, suffering, injury and disease, there are many procedures in place. These include safety measures before and after dealing with the monkeys. It is essential that general equipment that is in use all the time in the enclosure, such as tree branches, are cut down correctly and there is no loose rope to prevent the monkeys from getting injuries like an open wound. Any new equipment added to enclosures, such as enrichment devices, would be risk assessed. Hershkovitz indicates that the monkeys should be handled by as few humans as possible. If taken out in public, people should not touch or handle them to prevent the risk of passing on diseases. All of the monkeys have received a preventative vaccination called Sudavac. They also get worming treatment every couple of months, and in the past they have been treated twice with Panacur for worms.
There are many preventative measures put in place to prevent monkeys from diseases. Monkeys can catch viruses from humans, such as colds, so students always have to wear gloves and are not allowed inside the enclosure if they are ill. They are also not permitted to be involved with food preparation. The technicians use general disinfectants when cleaning the enclosures. The monkeys are not removed from their enclosures often, but when they are shut outside well away from any harm. This includes taking out all the substrate if organisms start growing on it. This only needs to be done when the enclosure gets too dirty, usually roughly once a month. The technicians will rearrange the logs and branches regularly in the enclosure to keep it interesting for the monkeys.
Also, when technicians are cleaning their enclosures, it can disrupt the scent marking of the monkeys. Therefore, every time the cleaning has taken place, they will only clean one spot in the enclosure each time to prevent a disturbance to their home.
If they are going for an operation, the monkeys are put under anesthetic, as it is very stressful for them to be going in and out of a small cage. The door to the small pet carrier would be securely closed using a cable tie, as the monkeys would be able to open the cage easily and escape. However, a monkey being trapped in a confined space for a long time is going to cause stress and panic, as they are used to having freedom every day.
The objective of an enrichment item is to improve the welfare of an animal. Our aim was to reduce stress and boredom by introducing a bowl full of fruit and hanging it on a tree branch to capture the attention of the monkey family. We wanted the monkeys to pull the food out themselves and turn feeding into a game. To ensure the enrichment item is safe for the monkeys, Stacey assessed and approved the enrichment, checking that the holes of the ball were not too small or big so the monkeys don't get their heads stuck. She also checked the material of the ball. In this case, it was a green, soft rubber material. The ball was hung by a metal hook instead of rope, as the monkeys may tangle themselves on the rope. We decided to introduce the enrichment Monday afternoon because the room was quieter than usual. We also decided to put the enrichment during their feeding time.
After the item was assessed by Stacey, we referred to the monkeys' food schedule. When preparing the monkeys' fruit and vegetables, we had to substitute the 40 grams of swede for 40 grams of parsnip and 30 grams of kiwi for 30 grams of tomato. Their Monday 3 to 5 p.m. diet was weighed and cut into strips to make it easier for the monkeys to take out and eat. Once all the food was prepared, we put all the strips of fruit into the bowl. Then the enrichment was ready to put into the enclosure. We put the enrichment item in their enclosure twice so we could observe their reactions and get accurate results. Monkeys are constantly foraging for food in the natural habitat, so here in the Animal Welfare Centre they have food available throughout the day. The first time the item was put in the enclosure, the monkeys were very interested in it. One even took a piece of fruit out before the item had been placed. This item was new to the monkeys, so they were intrigued by it and came to investigate multiple times. Once they started eating, however, they were not interested in the food itself and began to throw it on the floor.
Our enrichment was successful because the monkeys were really interested in it. They repeatedly approached the item, looking and touching it. Once they realized that it was just food, they started to throw the food on the floor. This may be because the monkeys' bowls were full of food when we placed the enrichment, indicating that the monkeys already had access to a large amount of food.
When observing the monkeys, we expected to have a reaction from them within the first hour. However, it may have been more beneficial to observe them for a longer period of time to witness their reactions. There may have been additional factors influencing their behaviour, such as stress caused by noise, the constant flow of people, and the availability of food already in the enclosure.
In order to improve the enrichment, we could change the size, shape and placement of the item. By using a different shape and size, it would re-interest the monkeys because they would view it as something new. A puzzle item may be more interesting for the monkeys as it could turn into a rewarding game. In this example, the Goeldii monkeys would need to figure out how to move the enrichment device to get the food out. Using a puzzle item could produce interesting observations. Although the Goeldii monkeys' enclosure cannot completely replicate their natural habitat, it meets the standards of the 5 needs criteria. The enclosure itself is suitable for the monkeys' welfare because it successfully resembles the environment and climate of the Amazon rainforest. In order to improve their surroundings, an expansion of their enclosure would be beneficial. However, this may not be affordable. The diet these monkeys receive mirrors their natural feeding tendencies. They have frequent feeding times with a balance of nutrients. Socially, the monkeys appear content and happy living with one another. Although this group is smaller than the usual 6 to 8, introducing new members may be dangerous, and it could be more beneficial for this group to stay as their current numbers.
The final section of the 5 needs outlines the importance of protecting animals from harm. The safety procedures in place to protect the monkeys are effective and prevent them from any disease or injury. All these elements determine whether the monkeys display natural behaviour. By observing the 4 Goeldii monkeys, we concluded they do exhibit natural behaviours to an extent, but some movements are influenced by the fact they're in captivity. Animals in captivity will develop different behaviours than seen in their natural habitat. Despite these differences, the monkeys overall appear energetic, healthy and playful. The enrichment device was successful as it reduced boredom.